Hey everybody, welcome into the live stream. We are here with Ian Everard, and there we go. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm trying to get my YouTube muted over here while I get going. Okay, so yeah, Ian, welcome in. How we doing?
Good, thank you. Looks like summer has arrived here overnight. It's sunny. The snow is disappearing rapidly.
Yeah, nice.
We're in the 60 degrees instead of 30.
Cool. Do you get much? I know you have some slopes right out your windows there. Did you have was there quite a few people this year up there on the slopes as normal, or?
Yeah, it's smoking. I forget to look. Literally just out the window that way, looking, hang on, if that's north, looking east. So I should get some binoculars really and watch the action.
Yeah,
you got too busy working to look out the window.
Do quite a few. Is that pretty busy throughout the winter then, or?
Yeah, they got lifts. They got 3 or 4 different runs down there. They do hold the crazy snowmobile contest as well. They try to drive snowmobiles up. I mean, from here it looks like a 45-degree slope. Maybe it's not that steep, but it looks scary to me.
Yeah, my kids were they got back not long ago from a little ski trip up in the mountains. So yeah, that's always a good time. I used to enjoy it when I would go. Did you ever ski?
Only a little bit of very mild cross country. It took me about 6 lessons to not react to when you start sliding. You've got to lean forwards. Well, natural reaction have been in construction for years. If you start falling forwards, you throw yourself backwards.
Right.
Just an instinct. You're breaking that instinct hard.
I thought it was funny. My kids got home and they were talking about whether they were doing French fries or pizza. I'm like, what are you? And it got me. Oh, you're pointing your skis together forward like French fries, or you're bringing them together like a wedge like a pizza.
Right.
And so evidently that's the new teaching tool. I thought that was kind of funny.
Make a triangle.
Right. So yeah, Joseph Lopez, welcome in. Liberty Bleeds Silver, good to see you. So we'll get going here. I had some revelations, I guess, or something you would say on some items, and I watched G. Edward Griffith earlier, just a little bit. He gave a new interview, and boy, he laid out some good, interesting things. But I guess I wanted to kind of lay out a few things here and see what you thought of them. I've been worried about the voter ID law for quite some time.
Okay.
And well, I shouldn't say voter ID. I should say IDs or
in general.
IDs. Yeah.
And
Trump just rolled out I don't know if you've seen it, but a voter ID law.
Okay.
And, that takes me back to just because I know that I've been mentioning this to you over the past few interviews, is this whole ID thing we got going, and that made me realize some other things that I think that I've been waiting to kind of put my finger on, and some of them with the illegals being shipped in and provided money for and purposefully being brought in is kind of my point. And I think this kind of all ties together a little bit finally for me. So it's funny because my whole channel kind of revolves a little bit around this. So everybody's got to bear with me a little bit here. So I was talking with someone in my family close about this, and I said, Trump just did this voter ID thing, and they're like, oh, what's that about? And I'm like, well, you have to show your ID to vote. And she's like, you don't have to show your ID to vote. Well, how do you not? How is that not a thing? Very surprised that you don't have to show your ID to vote.
Sure.
And see, and I think this is something that ties back with, our indoctrination and where they grew up. That wouldn't even be a thing that you would think about. Of course you would. I mean, it's just you go along with the system, right? to get along, you know. That's just the way you do it. And so the reason that I am, you know, keeping my eye on it is because of this. I feel like they're going to roll out this new CBDC money system with a digital ID type of idea.
Yeah.
And so now, and I've been wondering, like, why some of these things are taking place had big question marks on them. And one of them was the IDs, and how's that going to happen? And so now, like, I had to, you know, and she was like, well, why isn't that already a thing? And I'm like, well, the reason that isn't already a thing is because in America, our Constitution is something very unique to the rest of the world's societies in the way that they are used to, you know, the way they were brought up, under what regulations were they brought up. And here in America, with the Constitution, we were supposed to have the right to travel freely and not have to be stopped and searched and seized and show your papers and blah, 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 blah. And if we're born legally into this country, then, well, why would we need the voter ID? I remember being a kid and kind of having this talk and wondering where was this coming from, and it did seem odd. But it would make sense if your overall bigger goal, and remember, I kind of think that this has been planned beforehand, and so now I can kind of see, looking back, well, if you bring a bunch of these immigrants in here, then that makes it much more understandable in why you would need to roll out this new law, ID law.
Yeah.
So I just kind of find that probably, you know, works together. And then a whole nother thing, a long time ago, someone was saying that, and this was maybe 10 years ago. I think when we first went into Iraq, kind of this came out that, oh, we're going to go in. We want to go and do war with Iraq, and we want to go into Syria, and we want to go into all these other countries. And one of them was Iran. And we have went to war with most of the other countries that were on that list, aside from Iran. And so that's been on my mind. And then when and I'm sorry, this is a long-winded thing, but then when Netanyahu came over just not long ago, and he was talking about, you know, what the war over there that they're having in Gaza, and Iran, and Trump comes out and says, well, maybe we'll buy Gaza. Basically,
no, he didn't say buy. He just said take.
Or take it, right.
There's no buying.
Right. And so, you know, this was kind of a jaw dropper for a lot of people, you know, and then we see that just over this past week or weekend, about over in I should have wrote, who did not Libya, who did we just bomb? Yemen, thank you. And so this whole thing with Yemen, and so from what I understand, Yemen was attacking Israeli ships because they had put on a blockade. According to the Yemenis, what they were looking to remove was the blockade on food and water in Gaza. And the Yemenis were saying to the Israelis, look, you guys, you know, put this block on food and water. We want you to remove the blockade on food and water, and we're going to attack your ships. And then, so, you know, probably it came to Trump or to our side, and we had a choice of whether to maybe kind of talk to, you know, Netanyahu and say, let's just take this blockade away on the food and water, or we could bomb Yemen. And we decided to bomb Yemen. And that all it didn't make sense to me before. Like, why would you say that? We're going to take Gaza. It's like, what are you? But now that I understand, like, if you tie that back to all those countries that 10 years ago we said we were going to attack, and we just saw Syria go. And so now it makes sense why he would want to get the American people to think, you know, we have a big vested interest over there. And
Yeah.
so Iran is now necessary for us to go into Iran. And that's that just all the like those some of those things that made no sense to me at all now kind of came together a little bit, like, oh, maybe that's what's going on. So
I mean, from my understanding, if we, when I say we, the US launched an attack on Iran, the consequences would be $300-400 oil, $10-15 a gallon.
right.
Gas.
Right. Yeah, and
almost overnight, because Iran's self-defense is they have a doomsday scenario that if they get attacked en masse by the US or any other Arab nation, they will take out pretty well permanently all of the oil infrastructure in that region, the oil wells, the distribution, any pipelines, terminals, you name it, refineries. And they have got more than enough conventional weapons to do that. So, and unless an attack was launched that literally just wiped them off the map,
right,
they've got their doomsday response, a bit like Taiwan has with China. If China makes a move on Taiwan, Taiwan will take out every reservoir they can, every dam, and that alone would kill 400 million Chinese people and take out a good percentage of their industrial land and farmland.
Yeah, I mean, that's
so that might be why we haven't pushed it too far with Iran.
Yeah.
Because would it be acceptable for the US? I mean, I thought this current regime, and I'm going to call it a regime because that's what it is. I thought this current regime was less America first and stop meddling. You know, I mean, if you look at the routes that the Houthis are attacking, I can tell you, I think it is fact that only 3% of cargo that the US imports goes through that area that's under attack, whereas over 40% is European trade. So why, as a nation, are we meddling?
That's it. See, I don't think
we're supposed to be. I mean, the orange guy was elected on a platform of
no war.
Doing it.
Yeah.
The president of peace is going to solve everything and not go to war. Yet it seems to be war on steroids, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it doesn't, like, that's why I kind of try to keep mentioning that I can tie all this back together for quite a ways back as an ongoing plan. And here now suddenly, just like you say, we ran on a no war platform, and now here we are. Oh, well, let's instead of reinstating food and water to Gaza, let's bomb Yemen, and that's gonna trickle into Iran because they're kind of linked. And it's just it's the last thing you would do unless you were kind of pushing for it. You know what I mean? It seems like so. But if you know that this seems to be the plan, it's a bigger, long going plan. It's not about the shipping like you're pointing out, and it's not about some of the things that they're talking about. This is something different.
No, I mean, much mention used to be made, didn't they? The axis of evil that was Russia, Iran, Iraq, all of those countries were but how evil are we in what we're doing?
For sure.
And now biblically and spiritually, I'm pro-Israel, but I think it's abhorrent what they're doing.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
It's not. All it's going to do in the medium term is create more terrorists who have nothing else to lose apart from attack Israel.
I agree.
So, yes, it was absolutely horrific what happened on October the 7th. When, was it 1,500 Israelis were murdered and many hundreds taken hostages. But it seems to do a scorched earth response is not thinking the problem through. And then it is a problem that's been dumped on Israel. I mean, Gaza used to be the responsibility of Egypt, but they didn't want it. And none of the Arab countries want the Palestinian people to move to them. No one wants them in the Arab world. So I don't know. Long lived. It is deep, dark forces behind, isn't it? Pushing governments. You know, it's people are profiteering greatly the more war there is.
Well, see, that's kind of the what I'm looking at is how this ties to the monetary system. See, is it is all kind of tied together, and from what I'm seeing, you know, because there's kind of this push back and forth as well as this a bigger planet play, or is this just playing out in front of our eyes as they're making it to seem?
Yeah,
and I lean on the side that that's not the case. I lean on the side that what we're witnessing is heavily propagandized, and from a standpoint to get us entangled within the propaganda, basically, and so that we're gonna go along like with these new voter IDs.
yeah.
How would you get a constitutionally backed U.S.? See, because like the point I was pointing out with you know, someone saying, well, that's crazy that you would need a voter ID. It's because where they grew up, they don't even have those concepts of thought. What do you mean you don't have a voter ID?
Yeah.
You know? Well, how do you get a constant? See, the U.S. to me is kind of a strong point that they need taken down and gotten rid of, because of the things we stand for. We were one of the few countries who came up with these types of ideals, where you're free and that the government doesn't own you. The government works for you. Like, these are things that the United States stands for, but necessarily wasn't a thing before that I can find.
So when you say you're talking about the leading financiers that Montague Norman's boasted about, the people in charge of the globalists, who decide which nation wins and loses, which institution wins and loses. So you're talking about the top of the tree in the hierarchy of
yes, sir,
of power.
Yes, and that
sees the independence of the American dream of having that independence is a threat.
For sure.
So
for sure. It's the biggest threat.
Do you think the plan is to destroy it from within?
I think by any means necessary, but for sure, But for sure, it's happening from within as well. Like I've been saying, you've been hearing me saying they're kicking the legs out from under the table for a while now, since I've been coming out here with you. You know, for me, that's the way I see it happening, and it's funny that like you have to pull the public into this narrative. See. And how would you pull the public into a narrative of, oh, voter IDs are good, we want to now, you know, track and trace everything? Well, with what we see playing out in front of our eyes, you know, if you ask me.
People tend to adopt things very quickly, don't they? If they think it brings convenience and speed.
Yeah. See,
I mean, I've observed from when they brought out the just tap your card.
Yep.
And I refused to do that. And I remember once I was in a restaurant and the waitress tapped my card. I said, "What'd you do that for?" People don't even ask.
Right.
They presume that everybody is fine with it and they just do it.
Yeah.
And you almost when I'm sort of people watching if you're at the store, and I was at the store a couple of days ago and the guy brings out his gold American Express card, and you can tell he was making sure everybody within sight could see that he had the gold American Express card. And, you know, and it's just the way it just taps it like that, you know.
Yeah.
And then next to the card reader, you've got in Whole Foods now a palm reader. So you can sign up so you can pay by your palm now.
See, I've seen that too.
And it's like, no, stop it, people. And then at airports, you've got instead of showing your boarding pass, they scan your face if you, and most people just willingly line up and accept that.
Yep. Yep.
So
And internationally, you couldn't escape that, because I just went through DIA internationally to Canada to VRIC with you, and they finally opened. DIA has been under construction for a while, and they finally opened up this new section that I went through for international, and there ain't no way you're getting around being ID'd if you're going international, videoed and.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. Customs has been extreme. I mean, when I was visiting the States a lot, when I was living in England, it would always be all of your 10 digits, thumb and fingers, eye scan every time. Whereas going into the UK, I think it was just one finger or two fingers. So, and I wanted to ask, so you think are you concerned people are going to manage to get one or two fake fingerprints? So you've got to check all 10?
Yeah.
But it is definitely a conditioning. I do agree. And I think people will start willingly accept a chip or some sort of device. I mean, they're being used already, aren't they? Those sort of size of a grain of rice people have them put in the back of their hand. Yep.
And like you say, there's already there's places that just scan the veins in your hand, and that's a new form of ID as well. So yeah, they're definitely and the whole push, I think, is mental. It's that's what
psychological operation.
It's a huge psychological operation, and it's become kind of worldwide now. And now with the internet and like people coming out and talking about these things, it makes the information much this is a new age that we're living in, and some of the propaganda and lies that would have stuck now don't stick, because some people will think through the actual truth of what's being said there, and you can weigh these things out and come up with, well, that's not true, and well, why is he saying, just kind of like some of the things that I was putting together there, but yeah, I think that ID is a big, this voter ID, even though I know it's a big topic, and that to me, that's why it was pushed in our face as a big topic. That's what I heard so much of that before voting, about the voter IDs, voter ID. And then I would get text even after the election was over about, should we have voter ID and should we allow this and that? And I'm like, what are these texts? What am I getting these texts for? As if like I'm some lawmaker or I have some say over. It's like they're trying to, get you to interact and partake and become entwined with it, so that you're feeling that you're helping to forward the right thing, when actually you're just kind of falling into their propaganda.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just noticed all that, and I kind of had to mention, because it all does tie together with because like Edward Griffith was saying, and what I was just watching, if the government decides they don't like you, and they decide to shut your banking off, if you still have something in your pocket that's of real value, that can be used, like the dollar. If they shut, he said, I have a whole bunch of dollars under my bed or buried in the backyard. I can go get more dollars and go take it and pay somewhere. But when you saying that, right now this is kind of considered our money. And see, and of course, gold and silver is real money. But I mean, even in the fiat world, at least you get some of that in your pocketness with the fiat.
Yeah, with the physical currency. Yeah.
Right. And when we roll over into this new digital ID, they've really, you're losing so many things at this point. See, and
it's a dramatic step, because all of its features won't be used immediately.
True, I agree.
One by one, they will be used.
Exactly. And yeah, for the, and they'll probably make it quite loose and nice seeming right at first, and except unless you're one of those really hardcore people they don't like, and they'll make an extreme out, and the people who don't sign on it will immediately be vilified. These are your terrorists. These are your people trying to cause problems.
Yeah.
And so I just have no doubt that I'm seeing that starting.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if they switch off physical, or should I say, when, and the only way you can open up a FedNow CBDC account, you've got a proof, birth certificate, social security number, address, phone number, face scan.
Yep.
That would instantly mean that anybody that doesn't sign up for that could then be investigated. Well, are you documented? Are you on the run? Are you avoiding tax?
Yeah, why are you avoiding?
It would be instantaneous, wouldn't it? And it would also mean that all of the businesses, thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses who use cash to pay undocumented workers, that would cease.
Yep.
Interesting. I mean, it would be a new. I've never really thought of that use, because, I mean, there's so many different figures out there, but let's say there's 15 million undocumented people working in this country, and suddenly they can't get paid. Can you imagine the consequences?
Yeah, and okay, and see
if this happens overnight, meat processing plants, you name it, any industry where it's predominantly or a large part of the workforce is undocumented, that industry grinds to a halt. And a big part, isn't it, is food production. So what?
Well, here's kind of where I think on that is, let's say that happens, and now you have all these people who are not being paid. Okay, and it's like suddenly they've been locked
out,
that they can't interact in. That's going to cause, and even if it's not them, this is where those red flags easily come into play, where, some grocery store got robbed, and it's probably by these illegals that didn't,
because they're starving.
Because they're starving.
Yeah.
We have to. So now we're implementing martial law, and we're going to start rationing things. And if you don't have and that's where all these ties come together, where they're tracking the food in there, and then they can. It makes it really hard on that black market. And I think that's their whole. That's their big plan is how do we control the black market? Because society would rebound if we got out of their system. I know society doesn't really understand that, but if we were just to go back to gold and silver, so much of this would just kind of vanish.
Well, yeah, because the transactional wealth would stay in the people who are working and producing goods and services in their own community. It would stay and circulate in that community. Right. But at the moment, a cut of every transaction that's done in the banking system or debit card, credit card, every time a transaction happens, the banking system sucks out a bit of that wealth. So that would cease. But I was having a good day today till we start this conversation.
Yeah, no, well, what's funny about that is I was just at the bank, and it dawned on me, they take about every transaction, they pull like $3 when you're at the ATM for their own. And it's funny, like, here I am paying them, and everyone else in line is, so that they can further take more money from us. Well, we just continually, and I mean, I know that's depressing, but some of these things, when you realize them, it's a mind control that we're under. It's not just like, for some reason, people aren't allowed or able to think these things through.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't know. We find ourselves in where we're at now.
So what's the antidote?
Well, that's kind of, and I've been since I'm this precious metals guy, and I do I've always, so far it's the best tool I see for what's coming, flat out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm trying to play devil's advocate with myself, and if they do even come up with that system soon, if they suddenly come out with this digital ID system soon, and you didn't want to roll into it,
Yeah.
it wouldn't, even if you have gold and silver, it may still be pretty hard, because they're gonna say, if anyone's trying to operate outside of this system,
Yeah.
they're an enemy.
Yeah.
And so even if you, and like say I take someone I know, some silver, and it's an honest payment, but it's going to be tricky to get the goods that you want, because that person is going to, everything is going to be tracked to a certain extent, and I think rationing may kick in, especially if that happen, like if we're in a wartime stance and we go to voter IDs, and now people can't get, now we have like chaos within our own, that's going to cause like a type of ID where they regulate how many lettuce heads you can have or loaves of bread you can have, so that it's not going to the wrong places. Like, to me, I can just kind of imagine some of this stuff playing.
No, you're right, because obviously if you've got people that you are personally concerned about and they aren't in the system, they don't want you buying more food than you need. And
Right. Wait, you normally only buy one loaf.
We don't want you helping to stop someone else starve. No.
Exactly. Because it's not just, it won't be someone starve, it'll be the enemy. You're helping a terrorist. You're a homegrown terrorist.
And if you start bringing in the agricultural position, we've now got, is it 3 companies pretty well control the bulk of seed.
Oh, goodness.
Whereas there used to be a government agency that would give seed out free.
That's right. Yep.
And all they would ask in return was feedback, how it grew, what your comments are. They would get feedback from people who received it. So yeah, stock up on seed, I guess.
Right. Well, and then you got Monsanto. Like, I don't know if anybody's looked into Monsanto much, but my goodness, there's a nightmare for you. And that I think that ties into a lot of, Brian saying in Monsanto and Bayer, exactly right.
Yeah. They pretty well cornered the market, haven't they? And they have a termination thing in the genes of the plant, so the seed isn't viable. So you can't save seed from the crop you've grown. You have to buy the seed again every year.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
See, this is a diabolical plan.
So it's interesting, because I live in a heavily Mormon area, about 50% of the immediate area where I live. And if you go 40 minutes, 50 minutes north, it's 70%. Now they all have, or they're actively encouraged to have 2 years of food stored. 2 years.
Wow.
So at least they will have a good chance to have they'll be able to make some good choices. But if you haven't got food, you're very limited in the choices you can make, aren't you? You've got to find food. You've got 3 days before.
Even water. Yeah, water or food. They're both critical. Water especially. Yeah, and it's like, there's Neil McCoy Ward just put out a video, and he was pointing out all the different nations that at different times, so it wasn't come out like one propaganda push where all the nations came out at the same time, and they all said everybody needs to start prepping for war and make sure you've got your this, kind of a heads up. You need at least certain rations in case some wartime like event happens. And but he was pointing out pretty much all of the nations are doing that. And
I just saw Ricky's comment there. I better get my well dug as soon as I can.
Yeah, water is more important than Rick. That's
it depends on your metabolic rate. You don't want to see me 3 or 4 hours without food. I am not pleasant.
See, I'm different. Yeah, I can go quite a while without food.
I can't.
I need liquid. I need liquid. So yeah.
All respect to people who manage to fast for a day.
Oh, that's not a problem for me.
Well, not for you.
I eat at supper, or the last meal of the day is my meal.
Wow.
And I can easily skip a day.
Yeah.
I mean, but I need fluid. I need something to drink. So, but yeah.
So we need seed. We need to learn to grow. We need water, as well as our silver.
Indeed, and I have been trying to learn how to garden a little bit, and I think that's good. And I just heard that that they're actually putting vaccines in foods now. And
Really?
like, they have a vaccine that they can put into tomatoes, and there's trying to be laws passed that if you are gonna if you're gonna sell vaccinated foods to people, you need to label it as such and have the dosage so that you know how much you're getting. If you choose the vaccinated, you need to know dosages, right? So like you need to know that.
That's scary.
It is very scary. And check this out. So I'm going to share my screen. This blew my mind. And this, if you guys don't like to see, I don't know, weird stuff about vaccination, this is one. So check that
of information on how they actually do the procedure.
Oh wait, are you guys seeing? Oh yeah, you're there. Okay.
And I'll be doggone if I didn't find this clip right here.
So they're vaccinating the chicks and the chickens, and you would wonder how would they do that to such a little chick. Well, there you go.
Wow.
And see, I know about, like, you know, there's even these little stores around in well, I call Denver, when there's lots of these out. Denver is, you know, the center, but anyway, in the Denver area, there's plenty of these little tractor supply company type places where at certain times in the year they'll sell baby chicks. And it was that you can just go in and buy baby chicks. Now you can go in and buy baby chicks, but are they vaccinated or not? And not only are they vaccinated or not, you have to fill out paperwork to buy a chicken. Yes. Like, where are they at? Blah, blah, blah. Just in case maybe if something like a bird flu is to happen, they can find where they would be at to cull them.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, so they're going to these chicken farms. I'm sorry to get off on this, but they're going to these chicken farms, and they test them all, and the tests are known to give out false positives. Okay. It's a known thing. Yeah. And when you test thousands of chickens on these farms, if one comes up as positive, which you know you're going to, if you're doing thousands of chickens, you're going to get at least a false. They kill the entire thing. Not just they don't remove the one, they kill all of them.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, a normal person in a normal world with a normal mind would say, now, hold on a minute.
So it's changing what used to be a very affordable, healthy food.
Bingo.
Into probably a not so healthy and a very expensive food.
Yes, and when I was at the grocery store, I have a picture of it, so I can show y'all if you want. But it was 11. Now it was like a, you know, what do they call it? Like pasture raised
premium. Yeah.
But it was a dozen eggs for $11.59, almost $1 an egg.
So we're paying about $5 or $6 for so-called organic ones from Whole Grocer in Jackson. So somehow we seem to be insulated here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have the now, like I say, there's cheaper ones that you can get, but if you want the top grade ones, you're almost paying $1 a pop at our local supers. So anyway, my chicken to silver ratio thing is kind of holding out right now. So I do I do think that one day silver will outperform chickens. But
egg to silver ratio.
It was not egg to silver; it's chicken to silver. A laying hen.
Oh, they're getting expensive, are they?
Yeah, they're like the price of a 1 ounce. So it's a chicken to silver. You can give an ounce for a chicken, and that ratio has stayed steady long. It'll take your head off when you look at that ratio.
Really?
It
Wow.
just stuck. And as silver is rising, chickens are rising. Like right now, chickens are, because of all the culling.
But I guess because of the size of the market, there's probably quite a lot of efficiency in it, so there's not much slack. So actual increase in costs, i.e., real inflation, would get reflected very quickly in a chicken.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what I mean? So it's a more sensitive. It's the chicken in the coal mine.
Right. Yeah. Like I hear is with oil. And I mean, talk about a way to kick all this stuff off. See, like the tariffs seem to be throwing so much confusion into trade.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if our trade, because we're what do you call it? Where it's just in time delivery.
Just in time. Yeah.
And if our trade goes off, you're already looking at chaos here. So I mean, yeah, I think some of those bases and those legs out from under the table that I'm talking about, that's kind of what I am watching, and I see these things kind of happening. So I don't know what more to do than just kind of mention that I got my eye on those. I noticed those things. So, but yeah. All right. So let's try to get back into our normal routine here of silver and gold. What are you seeing in the silver and gold world, or the monetary world, or whatever you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been holding steady in the mid-30s silver. So we did have a pullback last week back to 32.70 for a few seconds, but it pulled back pretty fast. It does seem, we're into the 5th, some people say 6th year of deficit on silver. We must be getting maybe a year or less away now from a critical point, unless we get a complete breakdown of manufacturing.
Yeah.
But lots of volatility there. We've been in dollar range.
Yep, it's been at the 34, 33, 34, 35, right in there for a while now.
Lots of talk, isn't there, about valuing our gold, marking it to market.
Yep.
I think the figure is we're supposed to have 61 million ounces. That equates to the 8,000 and something tons. But I've got so many thoughts going through my head.
Well, one thing I would say about the whole revaluing, and I did want to mention something about the bricks too. And I was talking to somebody else about this the other day too. Is and with you too, how you said maybe there doesn't need to be a world reserve currency. Maybe everybody just stays in their own currency and gets into their own thing.
Yeah, I mean that's happening more and more. Gold,
and
gold has overtaken the euro as a central bank reserve, and I think the plan is that it becomes the world reserve, at least for the banking classes.
Oh, yeah, yes. I mean, I think we're there, right? I mean, I would say we're there. I mean, because all the central banks have stacked it.
Yeah.
And so, like with the bricks, there doesn't need to be a current. The whole thing was about a current. There needs to be no current. If they just trade wheat for beans, and at the end of the year, they're like, oh, we gave you a bit more rice. You owe us, just
you settle the difference. Yeah.
Gold. And that's a one-time settlement, and it's a real settlement. Yeah. And it would. There you go. No, nothing else needed. Just like you said, no new currency. We just continue on where we're going. And just like's been happening with the central banks gobbling it up without the public knowing, it's already a thing. It's already a thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started researching the metals and fiat currencies and central banks and the Bank of International Settlements, the narrative of everything I was watching was every reserve currency expires and a new one replaces it. And
yes. Right.
I think it's more likely than not there won't be ever a successor to the dollar as a world currency.
I can see that.
But it'll stop being, as a world currency, but it'll stop being a reserve. And it has stopped being a reserve for people to know.
There you go. There you go.
People in the know don't store dollars. They buy businesses, they buy farmland, they buy art, they buy wine, classic cars, you name it, anything.
Yep.
They store it in anything but dollars. And in fact, a lot of wealthy people are very cash poor and very asset rich.
Yep. See, that's the smart.
And if they need currency, they borrow it.
Right. Or print it themselves.
Well, get pally with the people that print it. Yeah.
Right,
but yeah, basically they borrow it because obviously if you are incredibly wealthy, it does make more sense to borrow because your principal is always being eroded by the debasement.
Yeah. And you could very much like even, okay, and I had this question, I don't know if I'll be able to get it out or not, but like with the people who, and Alistair McLeod, I was watching him, he had a great interview the other day and he was talking about this and he was pointing out that it wasn't Alistair McLeod, but anyway, if you lease out, like, so when most people buy GLD, they're not actually buying any all they're getting exposed to is the price, right?
Yeah.
And so the people who are giving them exposure to the price aren't even in gold necessarily themselves. So, I mean, they wouldn't have to invest that person's money that they get from the guy who's buying GLD. They get, say, $5,000 from somebody who gets into GLD. Well, they can take that money and they could put it into whatever they want to. It's just that when that contract rolls over, they can give them so maybe they put it into Bitcoin or they put it into cars or they put it into oil or right? I mean, it wouldn't necessarily, like, they're just taking that money because they don't even have anything underlying it. They're just taking that money, and if wherever that guy settles, they just have to give him back his due when that time is due. But what they do with the money in the meantime, do we know if there's even well,
even if they have the metal, they probably have the bulk of it. Even if they do, they can lease it to get an income on it. And then the person that leases it tends to sell it to get the dollars. And then they gamble with the dollars, presuming they can make more, that when the time comes to get the gold back, they'll have enough dollars to buy the gold at the current price. Plus they would have made a profit. Yeah. But the problem is, I think we're entering, if we aren't already in, a worldwide depression, and gold keeps rising. So anybody that was leased gold, sold it, and been gambling dollars on stuff that now are not only not keeping up with the price action of gold, their assets are falling, so they have no chance of replacing the gold that they've leased. And I think there's a connection there with the amount of gold and silver flowing from Europe into the US. And I think it's people preparing to cover their short positions. And I think there's also a great expectation there's going to be huge settling for physical on the markets, not just rolling the contracts over.
That's what a lot of people are talking about. Yeah. Yeah. You kind of
think they're just preparing for that. Because they don't want to get to zero or, settle in cash and caught that. I mean, as soon as that starts happening, it's game over, isn't it?
And then I'm a little confused about PSLV.
Yeah, the Sprott.
Because and they seem to be for sure getting the physical to back the contract. If there's one thing that we kind of can see with them is they're actually getting the physical behind it.
That's what I understand. They actually purchase the silver before they sell the shares.
But I also heard, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, that you can't pull your physical off of PSLV.
There probably is if you've got a certain size position
or something. Okay.
But a big concern for me would be well, where's it stored? the Royal Canadian Mint. It's stored in a government institution.
Yeah.
And heck, it might even be in the small print that Prince Charles owns it all. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Like,
Yeah.
can you see the look on Eric Spott's face? Charles says, yeah, that's mine.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, because
that's always been a concern of mine, you know, and talk, you know, every now and then I have a good catch up with Bob Coleman, and he genuinely is concerned about that large depositories, if there ever is government action to take hold of the bulk of the precious metals, they'll go for the Brinks and the Citadel and the Loomis. They'll go for the big depositories first. And why wouldn't a government do that? In a time of crisis, they write the rules, don't they?
yeah.
Well, in a time of non-crisis, they seem to be writing the rules now.
Yeah.
There's no real, what a government does compared to what they say they're going to do very rarely matches up, does it?
Indeed.
So a government will say, well, we've got a mandate, we were elected, and then they carry out a whole load of policies and actions that
they carry out this. That's what I've been pointing out.
Don't reflect what their manifesto was, you know.
Yeah, the train always stays on the same track of that old plan. That's why I've been kind of saying this over and over. Is look, this is a continuing plan. They're trying to fray the left so far from, and I don't know. Like they're throwing people in jail for like if you post something, and they call it inciting or whatever.
Right.
And well, if you don't call what Fox News against CNBC is doing that,
I know.
then I don't know what is.
No.
So
no, I mean, like publishing people's addresses.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
we're trying. I mean, it's like the mainstream media is just trying to start a civil war. If you ask me.
Or do you want to pull up Cranky Stacker's comment there? That's a good point. Because the bail-in legislation was pretty well written around the world from around 2012 onwards. And we had those bank failures. Was it 2023 now? Silicon, Stupid Valley Bank.
Yep.
There was 2 or 3, wasn't there?
Yeah, early on. Yeah, I don't know if it was 1 or 2.
First Republic. And they didn't use the bail. They actually broke the law. They didn't follow the law. Now, whether that was to stop systemic collapse and, you know, a breakdown of trust in the banking system in the moment, partly, but it could also have been to lull people into a false sense of security. Yeah, well, I've sold my house. I've got $1 million in the bank. It'll be okay. The government came good last time a bank went down. I'll be fine. And then suddenly you're not.
Same thing in gold and silver, right? It's that same lulled, like you say, lulled asleep or behind the curtain kind of.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's what I see too. And and then there was a bank.
They wouldn't have gone to the lengths of writing all of that bail-in legislation, and they tried it in Cyprus. I think they did it in Greece, and it stuck. So the legislation's been written. They've actually put it into practice. And if you sort of bring that thought together with the ever near introduction of a fully digital system, well, now you combine the two. So say it's a Friday afternoon and you go to the ATM and it's empty, and then you look on social media and there is no cash left, and then you log on your bank and you can't move, you can't do any transactions. The amount of fear and panic that would bring, people would really accept that on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning following, everything, not everything, but enough to make the system function will transfer to the digital currency. Well, you combine that with the bail-in. Well, the bail-in laws are there that anything over 250,000 isn't protected.
Yep.
So all of the laws are in place. Now, if they just bring them, you know, the Banking for All Act, I think that was 3-4 years old now. I think it was pre-COVID, wasn't it? The bank, I'm sure it was called Banking for All. And that talked about the Fed now, and the Federal Reserve would pay every post office, every independent bank, they would pay them cost of
right.
managing a digital bank account.
That's right. There was that whole thing with the post office deal. Yeah.
So no one would really have an excuse to not have a bank account. And the reason behind it was this would be good that the unbanked.
The unbanked. That's right.
Become
I forgot
banked.
about that.
Combine that with the bail-in, combine that full digital banking crisis, which has to come, really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've heard people say it's 5 to 10 times worse than 2008.
And that could also be very well why we're seeing these big moves in the like you were mentioning in in the comics or whatever, these moves from London to America for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is already an hour, me rambling on about my I don't know what you call light bulb coming on in my mind about some of these things that weren't making sense. But I knew I was talking to you about it the whole time. Like there's something behind this ID thing. I just could smell it, and now it's like, okay, yeah, there it is.
Well, it ties in with the CBDC, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It might not initially be a requirement, but at some point you'll at least need a face scan or a retina scan or a palm scan to activate your digital bank account.
Yep, and I think they did this whole push with the voter ID thing to kind of get the people like me, constitute, like how would they get those they had to do all this nonsense to get them to be like, yeah, this way we only get, true votes, and like this whole thing has been a push to try to get people on that side to be like, oh yeah, we need this in my opinion. So I don't know, but yeah, so that was we're already over our hour. What do you have, any good deals on us? What's on your mind? What you got on your desk there?
Let's just have a look at Cranky's comment there, because we've got all of these things colliding. You've got potentially financial crisis, you've got the identity crisis, you've got documented, undocumented crisis voting, you've got the bird flu, you've got all of these things occurring. Plus, I mean, I haven't forgotten, but the cyber virus, a virus that could be released to bring down all of the banking system. I think Jim Rickards wrote a book called it Ice 9 or something.
Yep.
He referred to a science fiction book called Ice 9, where a scientist works out a way of making water just freeze everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, whether this was deliberate or not, and I'm sure probably most of us think it was deliberate. The cerveza sickness, I think I can say that. That was a great way of monitoring people's reaction, wasn't it? And people's compliance. Who lined up for the
it was jaw-dropping for me to see everybody get in line and put a mask on it. It blew my mind. Like I still am kind of shocked by how
if they release a food crisis, a financial crisis, a health crisis.
Yep. According to Klaus, this
martial law.
Yeah, that's what Klausy said. The new cyber,
the perfect storm.
Yeah, the new cyber virus will make the COVID look like, I can't even remember what, but it was like nothing.
Picnic.
Yeah. So exactly.
And we've seen that, haven't we? We've seen bank systems go down for a day. Seen that's happened quite a lot.
And then all the, like, what I do notice about our digitalness is the new software is new today, but tomorrow it's old.
Yeah.
Like it is a constant. This is unhackable, but it got hacked today.
Yeah.
Like well, look at Bitcoin. And what I was just watching, there's this new breakout about some leaked information within the military, and I guess it's kind of just maybe all nothing. But one thing I caught one lady was saying was that they can take this unhackable system anywhere in the world with them and speak without being hacked. I'm like, well, if it's worldwide and they have access to it worldwide, like it may be unhackable today, but just like that's what they said about Bitcoin. You know, it's been, how many times has it been hacked now and taken by the government? Plenty of times.
Well, the trading platforms have. I'm not. So
Bitcoin itself has. People.
Does it really?
Yes, because the government has went in and they call it, because it was cartel, you know, drug related, whatever, cartel. They just hack it, and you say, well, how? I mean, how's the? Well, for one thing, because it admits itself, all the transactions are tracked.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because so many metals people seem to be adopting it now. Even was it Alan Hibbert, Mike Maloney's?
Yep, I couldn't believe that he was saying
it's like no gold that is independently audited and stored in a vault and then can be transacted in digitally, and it's bought and sold to adapt to the flows of the trades. That's digital gold. When you digitize
gold,
physical gold, that's digital gold.
Yeah,
nothing else is digital gold. Stop calling it gold. It's Bitcoin. Call it. And it's not a coin, so it's bit.
Yeah.
Just call it what it is. If you have to call it, I mean, it's like me saying that lump of copper is silver.
Right.
No, it's copper. Yeah. That's copper. That's silver.
Yep.
So the whole thing is, I think, dishonest to start with.
For sure. Yes.
Making it look like a coin and calling it digital gold is like, no, it's not.
Well, I think so too. And look at the names of it. You got the
blockchain,
the internet.
You've got your head on the block when you're in chains, and I'll cut your head off.
Yeah, and crypto, like these things are these are names that, like, you know, these are not. They're telling you right there if you're watching. You know, it's like.
Yeah, it's not for me, but I was surprised to see that.
I was too.
You know, the only really in-depth discussion I've had about Bitcoin is with a cryptocurrency guy who started coding before he could talk. His mother was a coder for the FBI, and you know, he was like super bright. He came in the store last year.
Cool.
And I asked him his opinion on Bitcoin. He said, I won't go near Bitcoin and I wish I'd written down what he said, but basically it was if a certain percentage of the Bitcoin miners cease mining, the whole thing collapses permanently, unrecoverable. Now, and he was into all sorts of other cryptos. His attitude was he can't afford not to buy any of the new ones in case they take off. So
I heard that it was getting something about the you know, they have these big facilities where they have hundreds of these computers that are just mining, and it takes a lot of energy, and supposedly the price that it's costing to extract now is becoming more expensive than extracting it. And I don't know.
It doubles every halving, every time they double the difficulty of the challenge for the miners to mine more Bitcoin. It gets exponentially harder, so the energy use doubles. And I did hear one Bitcoin guy, his solution was, well, by the time we need to, we'll have created free energy.
Well, isn't it kind of opposite of that? Like, aren't we spending all of our energy just to keep the energy alive, to keep it going?
Well, so energy equals GDP. So if you're creating energy and you're not creating a product or a goods or service, now some people would say that cryptocurrency is a service, but I think more tangibly, goods and services are somebody comes and cleans your car or fixes your roof, or you go buy food, a practical, physical, tangible exchange. So if you're using energy in a destructive way, you're reducing potential GDP.
Yeah, and all of our value is going into holding up the value of the currency when currency is supposed to hold its value itself, and not everybody hold the value of it up.
And you know, and one could easily argue, well, the current banking system, it's full of parasites sucking out of the real economy.
Yes.
To give us the privilege of using fake money.
Yes, that was my whole ATM realization today. Yeah, I was like, here I am giving them $3 more so that they can charge me more in the future to become more impoverished myself. Like, this is an ongoing thing.
I have a few people say, well, why don't you like taking card payment? I said, I don't like the card company making more margin than I do.
Yeah, that's
because
funny.
you walk in with your card, and I'm going to get hit with like a 3% ish fee on the transaction. Well, often that's my margin.
Yep.
So you want to pay the card company more gross profit for doing minimal to no work. And what have they done?
Yep.
So it is, but that's a whole psychological thing, isn't it? How Americans, you know, got trapped with the credit card and the convenience and the ease, and then the points, the rewards. You know, American Express give lavish rewards, but they charge the merchants high premiums, and the merchants put that onto the cost of the products.
Yeah.
So the only loser in the end of the day is the purchaser. So yeah, honest money. I guess as far as we can individually and communally, get back to that.
Yeah. Yep. And get, you know, access to water and those basic things, because it's a thing, and it's not just that it's happening by chance. In my opinion, sadly, I don't think it is. I think these things are being pushed out and into motion so that it is a thing. So yeah, get your gold and silver today, people. What do you got? Any good deals out there for me, Ian?
Always got good deals. So we've got Eagles, backdate Eagles, $2.99.
That's an amazing deal there.
Backdate Maples, $1.85.
Could be a good deal depending on what's happening with the tariffs in Canada and never getting.
They're getting harder to get, the new Maples.
That's interesting.
I think I said last time we did a show, one wholesaler's not getting any 2025s in. Got Krugerrands, Kangaroos, Rounds. Got some Kangaroos at 207, some brand new 2023s. Did I say Philharmonics, $1.50? Give me a call if you want a deal. I'll go even lower than that.
Wow, awesome. Great deals there. We all need to drop out and build a commune back to the 60s. Laugh out loud. Yeah.
Except people are tricky. I quite like my independence. I don't.
No, yeah.
And
well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I live in a small mountain town, so you've got that sort of connectivity and responsibility, and you know, more and more people are transacting in silver, which is great.
Yeah,
you know, I can buy honey, firewood, buffalo, and get my car fixed. Anything I can't do.
We need to try to implement that more and more, don't we?
Yeah, maybe there will be a breakup of the states, and the states that will go sound money will separate from the federal. But I can't see the federal system going. There's too much power and control from the banking cartel over government. But the states, I mean, what Utah and Idaho and Wyoming, and there's 12 other states with really positive precious metals legislation.
Yes.
So maybe that will be a differentiation.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm all for it. One of their plans that was their plans is to break the states up into new sections. And I remember watching that at the time, and I thought, boy, that's going to take some interesting developments for that to happen. But now I'm seeing some developments like wow, that could be a thing.
I think people are tired, and most people don't seem to actually know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I find.
And they feel disempowered. Probably not quite the right word, but they feel disempowered. So even if they do know what's going on, they don't feel they can do anything about it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing about America, where I was talking earlier, where we're a unique place, where this is one place where we said it's not the group, the larger group that's more important. It's individuals having their own liberties and being but it makes you have to be responsible. You have to take care of yourself. Well, you're not relying on them, but you have your own rights. Just because a bigger group says, we don't like this, doesn't mean you still don't have your individual rights. That's one of the things that I think is great about America. And there's been a huge push to get away from that, and even down to whether your kids should be raised by the state or not, and all this stuff is like craziness to me.
Raised isn't the word, is it?
Yeah, propagandized, molded. I don't know what you. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of good schools. Let's not put them all in the same. I'm sure there's plenty of incredibly hardworking, diligent teachers.
It's not. I wouldn't say that there might could be, but it's when all the stuff comes down from top down, and it's deliberately bad to dumb down our people so that they can continue with their onward bad ideas. It doesn't matter. The teachers' hands are tied to an extent, and that's what I've heard a lot from these institutions as well. Our hands are tied. It's this policy or whatever. So.
So I mean so get your silver, get your seeds, get your water, and keep getting educated as well. Then is another key, isn't it?
Community.
Critical thinking. Keep taking on information and see how that changes what you thought was going on. So critical thinking is definitely key.
Yep.
Because all is not what it seems, is it? There's a lot of things hidden.
That's it. It helped me a lot to realize, look, a lot of things that I thought might have been right, I need to allow the room for them to be wrong. Yeah. And see if it, I actually need something I thought was right, and maybe I need to remove that. And then that helps me to see other things that are true. And I found that to be a real thing, because we truly have been kind of propagandized for sure. But even if you look at it just from, I was thinking about this too, even if you look at it just from, we all go to the same school, we're given the same tests, we're supposed to think that we all have the same answer. And I don't think that we're all supposed to think and be the exact same. Like, that's how kind of seems like society wants us all to think the same. And, I don't even think that's supposed to be a thing.
Thinking.
I mean, think for yourself and have your own. That's what makes each person good, is because that they could have their own thoughts and they've had their own experiences to help them mold those. And
so we can all get our Neuralink implant, and then we won't need to think then.
Oh my. And I see us, and that's another thing. What should I use AI to get my information? Because you can cheat now kind of with AI and get a lot of, but is it real, or and then am I giving up my mind to something else?
It's definitely controlled, because if you've got the power or the influence or the connections, you can definitely alter what is out there about a particular subject, I'm sure. So I mean, I was really pleased. I picked up a whole set of Encyclopedia Britannicas for $20 from the local junk store a couple of months ago. So I thought, at least I got a reference point at that point in time. That was pretty reliable information. But with everything digital and people getting less and less actual printed books, it's a lot easier to change history. I mean, you look what they've been trying to do, have been doing with the Navy and the Air Force archives that are online. They went through and DEI cleansed them. So pictures of Enola Gay were taken down because can't have gay. So literally they took down all the pictures of Enola Gay from the Air Force online archives, and hundreds of things, you know. So obviously, I don't think they deliberately did that. But if you can get a group of people doing code to decide what is acceptable and isn't acceptable, that's
for sure
changing history, isn't it? It's changing what is. And you know, if you grew up and you never heard about the story of Enola Gay and why it was called Enola Gay, you add 1,000 or 10,000 other pieces of information that are erased or altered, your perception of reality changes, doesn't it?
Yes.
So if you're not naturally curious and naturally distrusting of authority, naturally a bit rebellious, I think you're going to miss out on the American dream, aren't you? I think you're going to just try and fit in, not be. And there's that pressure, isn't there? The whole being part of a tribe, part of a club.
Yeah.
A lot of the tribes and clubs, including the political parties, they don't really allow room for, well, hang on, that's crazy. You can't, I can't see that a Republican, and if I did have an allegiance, it would have been to what was the Republican Party. It definitely wouldn't be to what the Republican Party is now.
Yeah.
There's no room for dissent. There's no room to say, hang on, this is literally crazy. This is not, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, the whole like Indians and Cowboys. Oh, I'm in Dallas, so my team is Dallas Cowboys. Yep. I'm, you know, and it's just, it doesn't matter to anything except for that that's your team. And it's like, you know, that's not how it should be. That's not how we should be thinking. Oh, they're from this country, they're just a bad person, or like, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's way too much. I mean, I understand some tribalisms maybe not so bad, but like to take it flat out like that is ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, keep stacking seeds, water, silver, food.
Yep.
Keep learning. Get yourself a set of encyclopedias if you can find a set cheap. Before we start banning books, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, that'll be a thing. And,
yeah.
You know, all the new versions of the Bible out there, they change it to whatever their new ideal is. There's a one for whatever your ideal is.
Well, that's sort of what a lot of organized religions become, isn't it? Tailor it to suit the proclivities. Here you go. There's a long way to suit the proclivities of the attendees.
Yep. I see it too.
But there's a promise. I mean, God promises if you seek wisdom, you will find her.
Well, yeah, yep, that's what I found too. I mean, I find all that to be true. So talk about it, you know, that is a huge blessing, I guess you would say. Like the more that I've been able to,
and again, let's go back. If you want wisdom, go read Proverbs. I mean, right? Is it the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom? Yep. So if you don't have the respect and an awe of God, you're sort of going to go on a wrong track. Actually, not sort of, you will be on the wrong track. And it might look like a good track, and it might actually be quite parallel to the right track for a while, but you will veer off. You know, I mean, often the analogy is given if a ship's course is a fraction of a degree. I mean, degrees are divided into minutes and seconds. So you've got 60 seconds to a degree and 60 seconds to a minute. So if you're 1/360th of a degree off when you leave port, you ain't going to arrive at your destination. So
that reminds me of a story that I heard from a pastor back a long time ago. And he was saying that he was doing some missionary work, and they got on this boat and they were going to go to this island, and this boating guy had, you know, been back and forth between these islands hundreds of times and knows his way around. So he was on his way out to this island and got to talking with the pastor and those on board with him. But they had brought their audio equipment with them, and they put the speakers up in the front of the boat, and the compass.
Oh no!
front of the boat was close
Don't
to
miss-
a speaker magnet.
Yeah.
And so it threw it off just a little bit, and the guy driving was just talking with people and talking. Pretty soon he was, let's stop the boat. They're like, what's going on? He was all quiet, and he's like,
We're lost.
We're lost, and how did we end up here? And then they realized, oh, the speaker was close to the, although you think you're going the right track, you're not, and you end up way lost. So I thought that was even though you think you're like you can get off, and that's why I was talking about it. It's always good to be able to question what you stand on as your truth. If you have to nail a bunch of boards to keep that propped up for you, it's probably something you shouldn't be holding on to in the first place. It's probably faulty.
Yeah.
So. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thank you for coming back out, Ian. We're a little over time, so we'll let you go here. But yeah, everybody go check out Ian. Give him a call. He's got some amazing deals right now on silver. Premiums are low kind of across the board, so I think it's a good time to get in. For me, I think we are just waiting another jump up. We got a huge gap for me, I would say a huge gap in the ratio between gold and silver for that to close. So, and the way gold's going, I think silver will start heading that way and close that gap. And it's just my guess and my take on it. But yeah, so give him a call, get some of those good deals, and so I just crossed 500 subscribers, so we'll be doing a 500 giveaway. And I think some other things are going to come around, and probably next time me and Ian talk, I'll probably be doing a face reveal and doing my interviews face to face. So all that to come soon. So stay tuned, and stack your medals, get your basics and essentials, and sleep well. All right, Ian, and everybody out there, thanks for coming in. Sorry I didn't pay too much attention to the chat today, guys. I'll try to do better next time. But thanks for coming in. Appreciate you, and we will catch you on the next one.